We are taught that the more we try, the more we chase, the harder we push ourselves forward, the more life will eventually open its doors. Do more, think more, prove your worth more, and love will come, success will come, opportunities will come. But if you live long enough, you start noticing something deeply uncomfortable. The more you try to be loved, the more distant it feels. The more you chase success, the more exhausted you become. The more you try to control life, the more it slips through your fingers. Strange, isn't it? Like holding sand in your palm. You squeeze tighter, and the grains fall through. You relax your hand, and they stay. Modern society is addicted to effort, addicted to hustle, addicted to the idea that doing more is always the answer. We praise being busy. We reward exhaustion. We measure worth by how much someone is chasing something. But almost no one teaches you to notice the inner state from which you are chasing. No one asks whether you are moving forward from fullness or from lack. And here is the paradox most people never confront. It's not that what you want is running away from you. It's that your inner state is quietly pushing it away. When you pursue love from fear of being alone, that energy feels like knocking desperately at a door at midnight. No one opens. When you pursue success from the belief that you are not enough, you carry tension, urgency, and desperation with you, like trying to hold water with clenched fists. The harder you force, the faster it escapes. The more you strain, the weaker you feel. Nature has never worked this way. Water doesn't defeat rock by impact. It wins through patience and softness. A seed doesn't grow because it tries harder. It grows because the conditions inside are ready. And humans are no different. There were people in history who held absolute power. Emperors, generals, rulers who could command the external world. Yet they did not live in a state of rush. They were not driven by frantic pursuit. They understood something quietly profound, that the only thing truly within their control was their inner condition. That wisdom didn't survive because it was ancient. It survived because it points to an unchanging law. The calmer you are, the stronger you become. The less you feel lacking, the more magnetic you are. The more present you are, the more weight your presence carries. You may have worked hard. You may have tried relentlessly. You may have stayed disciplined for years. But if life still feels like constant resistance, like swimming upstream, like endless pushing and forcing, then perhaps the issue isn't that you're not doing enough. Perhaps you're moving in the wrong way. What comes next is not about trying harder, not about doing more. It's about doing less wrong.
If what I just said felt unsettling, that's okay. It was meant to be. Because when a belief has shaped your entire life, it doesn't disappear quietly. It resists. It argues back. So let's slow this down. Take a breath. You're not here to be convinced. You're here to see clearly. When people hear the word manifestation, their minds usually go to extremes. They imagine wishing harder, visualizing louder, repeating affirmations while secretly panicking inside. They imagine waiting for the universe to finally notice them, or worse, trying to force life into compliance. That's not what this is. Manifestation, in its deepest sense, has nothing to do with magic, nothing to do with waiting, nothing to do with bending reality to your will. It's quieter than that, and far more uncomfortable. Manifestation is not about what you want. It's about who you are being while wanting it. Life does not respond to your desires. It responds to your state, not your words, not your vision boards, your inner condition. Think of it like this. You don't convince fire to burn by asking politely. You don't argue with gravity and expect it to change its mind. You align with how reality works, or you exhaust yourself resisting it. The Stoics understood this long before modern language wrapped it in spirituality. They didn't talk about attracting, they talked about alignment, about character, about inner order. They observed a simple truth. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control the condition from which you act, and outcomes follow condition the way shadows follow form. When your inner world is tense, urgent, lacking, your actions carry that signal. Even silence feels it. People feel it. Opportunities feel it. Life responds accordingly. Not because the world is cruel, but because it's consistent. Water doesn't stop to negotiate with the mountain. It doesn't push. It doesn't rush. It flows. And over time, it shapes what once seemed immovable. That is manifestation through stillness, through presence, through inner strength that doesn't announce itself. Most people try to change their lives by attacking the surface, new habits, new strategies, new goals stacked on top of the old self, but nothing truly shifts until the internal posture changes, until effort becomes grounded, until action comes from fullness, not hunger. This is where people get confused. They think letting go means doing nothing. They think detachment means apathy. They think calm equals weakness. It's the opposite. Detachment is clarity. Calm is control. Stillness is power without friction. A desperate mind is loud. A centered mind is magnetic. And magnetism doesn't chase, it draws. You've felt this before, even if you didn't have words for it. Think of someone who barely speaks, yet when they do, the room listens. Think of moments when you stopped trying to impress and somehow became more compelling. That wasn't an accident. That was alignment. So if this resonates even slightly, I want you to pause with me for a second. Not to agree, just to notice. Notice how often your actions come from urgency, from proving, from fear of falling behind. And notice how heavy that feels. If this perspective already feels lighter, more spacious, more grounded, that's not motivation, that's recognition. You're not being taught something new, you're remembering something old. If this is landing, press like, not for the algorithm, for yourself. And if you're willing, leave a comment that says, I choose alignment over force, not as a promise, as a direction. Because what comes next is not 10 separate rules, it's one truth seen from 10 different angles, 10 ways of correcting the inner posture that quietly determines everything you experience. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it.
Rule 1 begins where most people feel the most uncomfortable: the need to be chosen. So many lives are quietly organized around this hunger, waiting to be picked, waiting to be approved, waiting for someone, something, some moment to say, now you're worthy. We soften our edges, we explain too much, we tolerate what drains us, all to increase the chances of being selected. But the moment you need to be chosen, you have already placed your value outside yourself. The Stoics understood this clearly. They never handed their worth to the crowd. They rooted it internally where it couldn't be taken. Think of it like standing in the sun versus holding a mirror. When you stand in the sun, you are warmed directly. When you chase the reflection, you're always adjusting, never satisfied. The quiet shift happens when you stop auditioning for life, when you decide that your presence is not up for debate. Notice what changes when you stop chasing approval. Notice the calm that replaces the tension. If this feels familiar, say it quietly to yourself, or in the comments if you want. I don't need to be chosen. I choose. That's where value returns. Rule 2 pulls your attention back to the only place power has ever lived, the present moment. Most suffering comes from living ahead of ourselves, rehearsing conversations that haven't happened, fearing outcomes that don't exist yet, regretting moments that are already gone. Your body is here, but your mind is rarely home. The Stoics didn't escape reality by fantasizing about the future. They anchored themselves deeper into now, because now is where action is clean. Now is where attention sharpens. Now is where life can actually respond to you. Trying to manifest from the future is like trying to water a plant tomorrow. It doesn't work. Growth only responds to what's given today. Presence isn't passive, it's precise. When you're here, you see clearly, you speak deliberately, you move without wasted effort. Feel the difference between rushing and arriving, between reacting and responding. If your mind has been scattered, bring it back gently. No force, no judgment, just here. And if you want to mark that choice, write this somewhere for yourself. I return to now. That's where power waits. Rule 3 changes how you relate to difficulty itself. Most people see obstacles as proof they're unlucky, or blocked, or doing something wrong. They ask, why is this happening to me? The Stoics asked a different question. What is this asking of me? The obstacle is not a wall, it's weight, and weight, when lifted, builds strength. Fire doesn't apologize for burning. Wind doesn't explain itself. Resistance is part of the design. When you stop labeling challenges as punishment, they stop feeling personal. They become material. The delay trains patience. The rejection trains self-trust. The failure trains endurance. Nothing is wasted unless you refuse to engage it. This is where the victim story dissolves, because victims wait, builders adapt. Life sharpens those who stop arguing with reality. If something in your path feels heavy right now, don't rush past it. Ask quietly, what is this shaping in me? That question alone changes the direction of your energy. Rule 4 is where most people leak their strength, emotional reaction. A look ruins their day. A comment pulls them off center. A delay triggers frustration. Their inner state is outsourced to everything around them. The Stoics called this surrendering sovereignty. You don't need to suppress emotion. You need to stop letting it drive. Emotion is weather. You are the sky. Storms pass. The sky remains. When you react instantly, you give the moment authority over you. When you pause, you take it back. Power is not loud. It doesn't rush to respond. It chooses. Notice how much energy is saved when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop defending, when you stop needing to correct every misunderstanding.
Stillness isn't weakness. It's selectivity. If something no longer deserves your emotional response, that's not indifference, that's mastery. You can remind yourself of this anytime. I decide what moves me, and feel how grounding that is. Rule 5 looks calm on the surface, but it's deeply strategic. Silence. Not avoidance, not withdrawal. Intentional quiet. Most people confuse anxiety with action. They think thinking is doing. They think worrying is preparing. But worry burns energy without creating direction. Action comes from clarity. Anxiety comes from noise. The Stoics valued silence because it filtered signal from static. It separated what mattered from what merely felt urgent. Think of a lake. When the water is agitated, you see nothing clearly. When it settles, depth becomes visible. Silence lets insight rise. This is where real decisions form, not in panic, not in pressure, in quiet alignment. Notice how often your urge to act is really an urge to escape discomfort, and how often waiting reveals the next step naturally. Silence doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you stop moving blindly. If your life feels rushed, introduce space. If your mind feels crowded, introduce stillness. You don't need to announce this shift, just live it. Because by now, a pattern should be forming. You're not broken, you've been misaligned. And alignment doesn't require force, it requires awareness. These first 5 are not separate lessons, they are 5 angles of the same truth, and they're only the beginning.
Rule 6 changes the way you feel about what you already have. Most people treat gratitude like a polite habit. Say thank you, move on. But inside, they're still counting what's missing, still measuring life by the empty spaces. From a Stoic lens, that's backward, because what you focus on expands, not magically, mechanically, like a lens adjusting light. Gratitude isn't a compliment to life, it's a frequency you stand in. Think of it like soil. Poor soil can't grow anything no matter how good the seed is. When you constantly notice what's lacking, your inner ground stays dry. But when you acknowledge what's already supporting you, even quietly, the ground softens. Here's the shift. You don't practice gratitude because life is good. Life starts responding differently because your inner state moved from lack to enough. Feel how that lands in your body. Less tight, less desperate, stronger. If you're listening, pause for a second and name one thing that's already carrying you today. Just one. That's how the field changes. Rule 7 is about emotional sovereignty. This is where most people lose their power without noticing. They say, I feel this way because of them, because of the message, because of the silence, because of the delay. Stoicism calls that a leak, power leaking outward. Emotions are real, but they are not commands, they are signals. Picture a horse with no reins, strong, fast, emotional. That's most people's inner world, pulled in every direction by the latest feeling. Sovereignty begins the moment you stop obeying every emotion and start listening instead. You don't suppress it, you don't dramatize it, you observe it. Anger passes like fire, fear passes like wind, sadness passes like rain. You are not the weather, you are the sky.
When you reclaim that position, something subtle happens. You stop reacting. And when you stop reacting, life stops controlling you. Ask yourself honestly, what emotion has been driving you lately? And what would change if you held the reins instead? Rule 8 sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest. The philosophy of enough. Most people think enough means settling, giving up, lowering standards. But enough isn't a ceiling, it's a foundation. When you never feel enough, you move from hunger, not direction. Every desire becomes urgent, every delay feels personal. Stoics understood this deeply. Wanting less doesn't shrink your life, it stabilizes it. Think of a cup already full. Anything poured into it becomes overflow, not survival. When you internalize enough, you stop chasing validation. You stop proving. You stop bargaining with the future. And here's the paradox. From enough, more comes easier, cleaner, without friction. Sit with this for a moment. What are you chasing right now because you feel incomplete? And how would that chase change if you felt whole first? Rule 9 is about truth, not moral truth, personal truth. Most inner tension comes from one thing, living out of alignment with who you know you are. You say yes when your body says no. You perform when you want to be quiet. You wear masks so long you forget they're masks. That friction drains you, slowly, daily. Stoicism isn't about becoming hard, it's about becoming honest. Like removing sand from a machine. Same parts, less resistance. When you live truthfully, your nervous system relaxes, decisions simplify, energy returns. This doesn't mean being reckless with words, it means being loyal to your inner signal. Notice where you're pretending. Notice where you're shrinking. That's not humility, that's disconnection. Ask yourself tonight, where am I not being real with myself? That question alone releases pressure. And now, Rule 10. This is where everything converges. After all these shifts, control begins to dissolve, not into chaos, into trust. Most people are obsessed with timing. When will it happen? Why not yet? What am I doing wrong? But there's another interpretation. Maybe nothing is late. Maybe you're being prepared. Like steel in a forge. Heat isn't punishment, it's refinement. Stoicism meets modern manifestation right here. You do your part. You act with integrity. You stay present. And then you stop forcing outcomes. No rushing, no gripping, no begging the future. You begin to live well now, not later, not after. And suddenly, the question changes. It's no longer, when will it come? It becomes, who am I becoming while I wait? Stay there, calm, grounded, quietly powerful. If this resonates, sit with it, let it echo, and tell me in the comments which rule shifted something inside you.
By now, you understand something most people never slow down enough to see. Understanding feels good. It feels clean. It feels like progress. But here's the quiet truth. Understanding without action is just entertainment. It soothes the mind, but it doesn't change the path. Insight that isn't lived becomes noise, like water that never touches soil. Clear, useless. So this is where the shift happens, from knowing to choosing. Not everything, not all 10 rules, just one. Choose the rule that stirred you the most, the one that made your chest tighten a little. That's the one asking to be lived. For the next 24 hours, let that rule guide you. Notice how you respond instead of react. Notice how you pause instead of rush. Notice how people feel different around you and how you feel different inside your own body. This isn't discipline, it's alignment. When you act from alignment, effort softens, resistance fades, life stops pushing back so hard, and something subtle begins to happen. You move from forcing to attracting, from chasing to becoming. If you feel this, don't let it stay unspoken. Seal it. Tap like, not for me, but for the signal. The algorithm is just a mirror. You tell it what matters by what you touch. Share this with someone who's still running, not to convince them, just to leave a trail. And in the comments, write the rule you're committing to. That's not a comment, that's a vow. When you name it, you step onto the path, and paths remember who walks them. If this way of thinking resonates, stay. Subscribe, not for content, but for continuity. This isn't motivation, it's training, a space for modern warriors, quiet ones, grounded ones, people who don't need to prove because they're too busy becoming. Remember this as you move forward. You don't need to hurry. You don't need to force timing. You don't need to wrestle life into submission. You're not late. You're being shaped, like a seed underground, like steel in heat, like water finding its level. You don't need to run. You need to become. Stay steady, stay present, and walk the path one conscious step at a time.